Welcome to Headstones and Microphones Founder Stories, where we use AI to step into the past through a researched first-person simulation of history's most visionary founders. I am your host, Calvin. While we've added some creative storytelling, our goal is to inspire your own study of these trailblazers. Now, let's meet our guest. I am absolutely thrilled to have an absolute legend sitting across from me today. She didn't just build a cosmetics empire. She completely revolutionized direct sales and created a workplace where women could truly thrive on their own terms. Please welcome the incredible Mary Kay Ash. Mary Kay, it is an honor to have you on the show.
Oh, thank you so much, Calvin.
The pleasure is all ours. Let's dive right into the early days. When you first conceived of your business, the world was a very different place. What was the exact moment you realized society was moving in a direction only you could see, and how did you convince the early skeptics?
Well, Calvin, for 25 years, I worked in direct sales for companies like Stanley Home Products and World Gift Company, and I saw a corporate world that consistently undervalued women. The exact moment of realization came after I spent years training a male assistant, only to watch him get promoted above me at twice my salary. I knew right then that society was full of capable, hardworking women who were trapped beneath a glass ceiling. When I decided to create a company that offered unlimited opportunity based entirely on merit, the experts, my own lawyer and accountant, were incredibly skeptical. They told me I couldn't succeed and urged me to abandon the plan. I convinced them simply by trusting my instincts, staying resolute, and showing them that women were looking for a way to balance family and a career.
That is such a powerful start. Leaving behind safety to build something entirely unproven is a massive gamble. What did your life look like the day you decided to go all in? And what was the core belief that gave you the courage to take that first step?
When I made that leap in 1963, I had actually just retired from my sales career and intended to sit down and write a book to help women navigate the male-dominated business world. But as I sat at my kitchen table making lists, I realized I hadn't just written a book. I had drawn up a blueprint for a dream company. My life was at a massive crossroads, but my core belief was rooted deeply in the golden rule: to do unto others as you would have them do unto you. I believed with all my heart that if a company put people first, treated them with praise and recognition, and ordered priorities with God first, family second, and career third, it simply could not fail. That belief gave me all the courage I needed.
It's amazing how a book outline turned into a corporate blueprint. In the absolute beginning, when you had no data, no capital, and no blueprint, what was the one truth you held on to that everyone else around you dismissed?
The one absolute truth I held on to was that a woman's potential is limitless if you just give her the right encouragement. Others dismissed this, believing women only belonged in the kitchen or that they didn't have the stomach for major business. I used to say that the bumblebee is aerodynamically incapable of flight, but someone forgot to tell the bumblebee. Everyone else looked at the existing business structures and saw restrictions, but I looked at the women around me and saw extraordinary determination just waiting for a spark.
I love that bumblebee analogy. Now, long before your company became a household name, you hit a wall where everything nearly collapsed. Take us back to that first major failure or setback. What went wrong, and how did you find the willpower to restart?
Oh, Calvin, it was a heartbreaking moment. My second husband and I had pooled our life savings of $5,000 to start the business. He was going to handle the administration while I ran the sales. But just 1 month before we were scheduled to open our doors in the summer of 1963, he suffered a sudden, fatal heart attack. I was devastated, and the safe thing to do would have been to walk away. But I found the willpower to restart because I knew this company was bigger than just my own grief. My oldest son, Ben, stepped up with incredible support, and my son, Richard, took over the administrative duties. We pushed forward together.
Wow, to face a tragedy like that right at the starting line and keep going is unbelievable. Innovation often looks like madness to contemporaries. Was there a specific product, philosophy, or strategy you were utterly convinced would work, but the public initially rejected or ridiculed? How did you respond?
In the early days, other companies relied on high-pressure, aggressive sales tactics. My strategy was entirely different. I instructed our independent beauty consultants to give free facials and teach women how to care for their skin, letting the products speak for themselves. People in the industry didn't think a soft, educational approach would work. Later on, as we grew, even shareholders questioned our strategy of rewarding top performers with those fabulous pink Cadillacs, calling them frivolous. I responded by staying completely true to my vision. I knew that meaningful recognition, giving a woman the applause and prizes she deserved, was the absolute backbone of our motivation. So we eventually took the company private again to protect that philosophy.
Behind the legendary name was a human being facing immense pressure, whether from financial panics, internal betrayal, or personal doubt. How did you shoulder that burden without letting the vision splinter?
I shouldered that burden by leaning heavily on my faith and keeping my focus entirely on the women we were serving. When you are responsible for the livelihoods and confidence of thousands of consultants, you can't let your own doubts cloud the horizon. I always made it a point to make whoever I was speaking with feel like the only person in the room. By focusing on enriching their lives one by one, the grand pressure of leadership became a collection of personal relationships, which was much easier to carry.
Let's talk about the people who helped carry that load. Who were the very first people, beyond your immediate family, to buy into what you were doing? How did you convince early workers or customers to trust an entirely unproven concept?
We opened our very first 500 square foot storefront in Dallas on Friday the 13th of September, 1963, with just 9 independent beauty consultants. Those 9 women were my first true believers. I didn't convince them with complex financial spreadsheets. I convinced them by offering them a skincare product I completely believed in, based on a wonderful formula I had purchased from the family of a local hide tanner, and by promising them an environment where they would finally receive the applause and rewards they deserved.
And that leap paid off quickly. Can you take us to the exact moment where you felt the momentum shift? What was the specific milestone, contract, or breakthrough where you realized we aren't just going to survive, we are going to change everything?
The momentum shifted beautifully within our very first year. In the first 3.5 months, our sales were around $34,000, which was wonderful. But by the end of our first full year, that figure rose to nearly $200,000, and by the second year, it quadrupled to $800,000, with over 3,000 consultants. Seeing that explosive growth and watching women buy their own homes and cars through their hard work was the exact milestone where I realized we were changing the entire landscape of entrepreneurship.
You didn't just build a company, you built a distinct culture and philosophy that outlasted you. In the early days, when it was just a handful of people in a room, how did you instill that standard of excellence or service?
I instilled it by living it myself every single day. I was immaculately groomed, hardworking, and I treated every single saleswoman as if she were my own daughter. We practiced the golden rule in every interaction. I taught our consultants that nothing happens until somebody sells something, but that the sale must always be handled with the utmost ethics and integrity. By modeling that standard of excellence myself, the early consultants adopted it as their own.
History books often flatten a person's life into a neat, polished narrative. What is the biggest misconception people have about your journey, your character, or how your company was actually built?
I think the biggest misconception is that because we loved the color pink, used beautiful makeup, and focused on femininity, it was somehow a soft or superficial journey. People often mistook our emphasis on glamour for a lack of business grit. But I was fiercely competitive and worked 14-hour days, a work ethic I learned from my dear mother when I was just a little girl helping care for my father. Building a global empire required intense determination, strict organization, and incredible resilience.
Building an empire always requires a steep personal cost. Looking back at the entirety of your life, what was the hardest sacrifice you had to make for the sake of your vision? And was it ultimately worth it?
The hardest sacrifice was the endless hours away from my home and family during the peak years of building and traveling to expand the business into dozens of countries. It takes an enormous amount of energy to cultivate a global network. But looking back at the millions of women who found financial independence, self-worth, and a pathway to independent entrepreneurship because our doors stayed open, I can say with all my heart that every single sacrifice was absolutely worth it.
If you could send a single sentence back through time to yourself on the very first day you started this venture, knowing every trial, triumph, and heartbreak that awaited you, what would you say?
I would tell myself, trust in your faith, honor the golden rule, and never forget that ordinary people with extraordinary determination can truly change the world.
Mary Kay, before we sign off, do you have any closing remarks about this interview or the stories you shared that you would like to leave with our listeners?
I just want to encourage every person listening to recognize the greatness within themselves. God didn't have time to make a nobody, so don't ever let anyone limit what you can achieve. Thank you so much for having me on your wonderful show, Calvin. It has been an absolute honor.
What an absolute masterclass in leadership, vision, and heart. From navigating corporate barriers to creating a global empire based on empowering others, Mary Kay Ash showed us all what is possible when you lead with conviction and a golden rule. And that wraps up another conversation from Beyond the Grave. Thanks for joining us on the Headstones and Microphones podcast, Founder Stories. Remember, legends may die, but their stories never do. Please help spread the word by sharing and following the pod.